Hey bakers, welcome back to my Bake Escape. During this time of year, I love to make cookies and give them away as gifts. Last week, I shared a recipe for snowball cookies, and this week, I'm sharing my recipe for cranberry pistachio biscotti. They are so delicious and the perfect cookie to add to your gift boxes. I love the red color from the cranberries and the green pistachios. They remind me of Christmas. I dip them in white chocolate for added sweetness, and when paired with coffee, they are so delicious. For the full recipe, visit mybakeescape.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Pinterest at mybakeescape. And if you enjoy these types of videos or you need some recipe ideas for the holidays, be sure to check out my holiday playlist. For this recipe, you are going to need all-purpose flour, pistachios, granulated sugar, salt, baking powder, vanilla extract, eggs, 1 stick of unsalted butter, and dried cranberries. To get started, I always like to combine the dry ingredients first. So I add the powdered sugar to the flour along with the salt, and then I whisk those together. I set the dry ingredients to the side while I work on the wet ingredients. So the wet ingredients are the 1 stick of butter, the granulated sugar, the vanilla, and the eggs. Using my hand mixer, I cream the 1 stick of room temperature butter. And then I add the granulated sugar and I cream these two together for about 2 to 3 minutes. Then I add in the vanilla extract, mix that together. And I kind of like to just scrape down the sides of the bowl with a spatula, make sure I get everything well incorporated. And then I'm going to add the 2 eggs. I like to crack those in a separate bowl just in case I get any shells. It's a lot easier to remove. So once those eggs are cracked and ready, I add them to this mixture. And then I mix those in, and that is the wet ingredients. So now that the wet ingredients are nice and creamed together, I'm going to go ahead and incorporate the dry ingredients. So I add in the flour mixture, and then I mix with my hand mixer on low to start so I don't have a big cloud of flour everywhere. I mix this until all of that flour is incorporated and absorbed into that butter mixture. And this is the base of the biscotti dough. So at this point, you can bake them just like this, or you can add any type of dried fruit or nuts and make this your own special cookie. But for this recipe, because it is Christmas, I decided to use the dried cranberries and those roasted and salted pistachios. Now that the dough is ready, it is time to mix in those pistachios and the dried cranberries, and I use a large spatula to mix these in by hand. I don't want to use my hand mixer because at this stage I don't want to overwork the dough. I want to have a nice tender soft cookie, so I mix these in by hand, and look at how beautiful it looks. You can see the green pistachios and those red cranberries coming through. It looks so pretty. All right, so this is going to bake on a cookie sheet. I line it with parchment paper, and then I take the whole ball of dough and I place it on the parchment paper. I need to shape this dough into a log, and so I'll let you know that the dough is very sticky, so it helps to wet your hands slightly. So I carefully and just took my time gently pressing this dough out into a nice long log that is about 13 inches long by 3 to 4 inches wide. And I just try my best to make it as even as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but once you have it shaped into a log, it's going to bake in a 350-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 30 minutes. Once baked, you're going to remove it from the oven and let it cool on the pan for about 20 to 25 minutes. Once the log is cooled, I am going to cut out those biscotti, and to cut them I use a serrated bread knife. And once the log is cooled, I carefully and gently transfer the log to a cutting board. It is very important that you are careful at this stage, because if you aren't careful, the log can split and you don't want that to happen. So once I transfer the log to a cutting board, I go ahead and cut out the biscotti. I take a peek and look at how beautiful it looks. You can see those pistachios and cranberries throughout the cookie. Oh, I'm so excited. So I go ahead and take my time cutting out each cookie and being very gentle because the dough isn't completely baked through and it can crack and break. So just take your time cutting out each cookie. Look at how beautiful they look. Oh, I'm so excited. So after I cut out all of the biscotti, I like to take one of the end pieces like this and taste test. And actually, these are so delicious already just at this stage. You can taste the vanilla and the nuttiness from those pistachios and then that sweetness from the cranberries. Such a delicious combination. So biscotti are baked twice. So in order to do the next bake, I went ahead and took a cookie sheet and I placed the cookies cut side down. It's okay to crowd the pan at this stage because they're not going to spread anymore while they bake. So I added all of the biscotti cut side down to a pan and I baked them for an additional 15 minutes in that 350-degree Fahrenheit oven. After the cookies baked for 15 minutes, I removed the pan from the oven and placed them on a cooling rack. And very carefully, because the pan and the cookies are very hot, I turn each cookie over so that they lay flat on the other side. And once I turn each cookie over, I place the pan back in the oven so that they can bake for an additional 15 minutes. So these cookies are baked a total of an hour because the first bake is in that log shape for 30 minutes. Then once cut, they're baked for 15 minutes on each side for a total of 60 minutes. After they've baked another 15 minutes, this is what they look like. So I'm going to go ahead and let these cool completely. And while they cool, I'm going to work on melting the white chocolate. So for this recipe, I just used white chocolate chips and I used a glass heat-proof microwave-safe bowl and I placed them in the microwave to melt. While that was melting for about a minute, I went ahead and transferred my cooled cookies to another baking sheet just to kind of prep my workspace. So after about a minute, this is what the chocolate chips look like. You can see that they started to melt slightly. I take time and really mix them together. Place them back in the microwave for about another 15 seconds. Take it out, mix it, and do this in increments about 15 seconds until I achieve the consistency that I want, which is a nice, smooth, melted drizzle consistency. Chocolate is melting. I went ahead and prepared a baking sheet with some parchment paper. That is what I'm going to put the dipped biscotti on so that it can set with that white chocolate on. And after a couple of minutes of melting the chocolate in the microwave in increments of 10 to 15 seconds, the chocolate is ready. It is nice and melted and has a drizzle consistency. Now it's time to dip the biscotti in the chocolate. So if you notice, there are different sized cookies. Some of them are longer than the others. So I knew that the bowl I melted the chocolate in wouldn't fit all of the cookies. So I just transferred the melted chocolate into a larger bowl so that I can easily dip the biscotti into the chocolate. Now, for me, my preference is to dip just the bottom. So I went ahead and kind of dusted off any crumbs that were on the bottom so they don't fall in the chocolate. And then I carefully dip the cookie into that white chocolate. Now, you can add chocolate however you like to the cookie. You can drizzle the chocolate on the top of the cookie, maybe dip half of the cookie in chocolate, or the whole cookie if you really like white chocolate. That's really up to you. For me, I just like to dip the bottom part of the cookie in the chocolate. And so as I dip it in the chocolate, I kind of shake the cookie to remove the excess chocolate. And then I place each dipped cookie onto that parchment lined cookie sheet. Once all the cookies have been dipped in that white chocolate, I let them sit on that parchment lined cookie sheet for about 40 minutes until the chocolate is completely set. These can be stored in an airtight container for up to 5 days on your counter. These are great as gifts, and they also are the perfect addition to your treat boxes this holiday season. These are absolutely delicious on their own, but I love to dip biscotti in hot coffee, and I think that these would pair so well with a delicious eggnog latte or hot chocolate or tea. Because they were baked twice, they can withstand being dunked in that hot liquid, and the flavor is so delicious. You get hints of vanilla and then that nutty toastiness from the pistachios. The cranberries add a sweet, tangy chewiness, and then that white chocolate just rounds it all out into a delicious cookie. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to visit mybakeescape.com for the full recipe. If you make these cookies, let me know in the comments what you think. And of course, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those in the comments as well. Be sure to visit my holiday playlist for lots of delicious recipes. Thanks for watching and have a sweet day.